the type of evidence will evolve as we move forward in the comparative effectiveness world. Up until now, most evidence has been built around randomized trial information. With comparative effectiveness, we're going to have a lot more non-experimental studies, observational studies, retrospective analyses. And so the type of information that patients and doctors and payers will have to contend with is now going to be much, much broader than just the typical drug trial that was done as part of the FDA submission. The evolving type of evidence base is very important because the FDA makes it very clear that pharmaceutical industry, when they talk about their drugs, must maintain a focus on what's in the label. And what's in the label has been defined as substantial evidence. And substantial evidence means basically randomized controlled trial data. So for the industry then, they will be constrained and not be able to talk about these type of comparative effectiveness studies that were observational in nature. They won't be on the label, and therefore the FDA would say you're not allowed to talk about them. One would think that communication is something that's what's good for the goose would be good for the gander, so that everybody would play by the same rules. Nobody can say fire in a movie theater. You don't just say, well, some people can yell fire in a movie theater, but others cannot. But the way it is in the evidence discussion process is that industry is quite constrained. Again, it has to be what's in the FDA label, but no one else has similar constraints. So health plans can talk to doctors about any data they want. Academic detailers don't have those same types of restrictions. CME courses are not held to the same standards. So there's really a very discrete standard that applies differently to those in the industry and those outside of the industry. Ideally, there should be a set of communication standards or guidelines that apply to everyone. Basically, these could be developed by multiple stakeholders, so it wouldn't just be industry or just the FDA, it would be payers and patients and provider groups that would develop a set of standards that says if you're going to communicate, these are the elements of proper communication. So you can't just cherry pick certain studies, you need to have a broad set of studies. You can't just talk about the benefits, you also have to talk about the risks. What about patient preferences? What about different subgroups of patients that do really well and others that may not do so well? So once you have a set of standards, then my belief would be everybody could communicate as long as they adhere to those standards. So it wouldn't just be a set of standards for industry, but a set of standards for everyone, and that would open up the dialogue and have more people participate in it. There are two potential risks if only non-industry people can talk about studies. Let's say, for example, a study is very good and it was done extremely well. Industry has a wonderful ability to communicate. And so having the ability to communicate a good study is really beneficial for everybody because most study authors don't have the capability to broadcast that message and get it out to doctors and patients for their awareness. Conversely, if a study wasn't done well and it had certain limitations, if you constrain the dialogue and industry is not allowed to participate, then those limitations would also not be known more broadly. So in both cases, whether it was a good study or a limited study, there are reasons why broad communication would be desired.